We're so happy to have our nonprofit leaders with us and all of you joining us. For TPC, these dialogues have been one of our cherished ways to get to know our grantees a little bit better, hear their stories, and learn just a bit more about the greater issues and communities with which their work is intersecting. It's also a great way to find out um, how we might get involved beyond TPC as individuals, whether with our time or whether with our resource or our connections. Um, a big thanks first off, before we get started, to folks that made this evening possible. My education co-chair, Penny, ed committee members, Susan Seidel, Sherry Sandoval, Nicole Hicks, Edwina Nowicki, and also Anamika Rice, who's going to be moderating this evening. Some quick housekeeping. Our format tonight is going to be some light intros, a formal style presentation, and then a moderated discussion with group Q&A. Please try to keep yourselves muted while we go through the formal part of the program. Keep throwing in any questions you have into the Zoom chat. It is being monitored, but please know that when it comes time to Q&A, you can just unmute yourself and shout out your questions. Know that this event is being recorded. It's going to be posted onto TPC's website, and it does serve as an educational resource for all of us. Personally, I found them helpful in preparing for TPC grant committees, the grant teams, and voting on the ballot. It just makes me feel a little bit smarter. And finally, know that if you have the time, you're welcome to stay on a few extra minutes after we turn off the recording for any more informal hellos, chats, gratitude and thank you to our speakers this evening. With all that said, I'd like to hand it over to Mika, who is also on the board and is part of our terrific grantee engagement team. Mika, off to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Nice to see everyone tonight. Thank you for joining. I'm really looking forward to introducing the guests from two of our current grantee cohort today. And before I do that, just want to echo what Sarah had said, which is Heather and Marcia will be introducing or reintroducing us to their amazing organizations who have been part of the TPC grantee cohorts multiple times. And so it might be familiar to some of us, but this is a good chance for us to refresh ourselves with their work, with the issues that the communities they serve are facing and how they're addressing those concerns. And we highly encourage you all to be reflecting and thinking about the questions you'd like to pose, the conversations we'd like to start, while we have the benefit of Marcia and Heather in the room in community and company with us today. I'll be making a few notes myself as we go, so thank you in advance. So quick round of introductions to our wonderful guests. Heather Wightman is the executive director and founder of RIA, and has 25 years of experience in this space, dedicated professional. I'm sure Heather, this always feels uncomfortable to you, but I want to remind everyone in the room about the perspective that you're bringing to today's conversation. Heather has more than 25 years of experience designing and managing these multifaceted programs at the state, federal, and local level related to violence prevention. Heather received her social work degree and public health degrees from BU, and is a staunch committer to social justice and the advancement of human rights. She's a Massachusetts sexual assault counselor, serves on the board of the ACLU of Massachusetts, the YWCA, and Matarahi Eye of the Day, and is appointed to the Metro West Commission on the Status of Women in 2014. Heather has also recently been awarded the Seraph and Helho Protopata Community Service Award, the first of its kind in memory of two justice fighters. She is a former Peace Corps volunteer in Central America and proficient in the Spanish language. Heather, it's so wonderful to have you here today. Thank you for bringing your voice to the conversation. And then joined alongside her today, Marcia Felth, Director of Development for Young Man with a Plan, 20 years of experience in corporate and nonprofit program development, consulting, and grant writing. helped Marcia as she engaged to lead the design and launch of Young Man with a Plan in 2015. Young Man with a Plan is a holistic mentoring program engaging young Black and Latino men across 8 different Boston school areas. And for the past 10 years, Marcia has worked very closely with the executive director of Young Men with a Plan to build this organization up and out. She serves as director of development. She received her BA from Barnard as a first-generation college graduate and her Master of Education from University of Vermont, and is certified as an executive coach and a writing group leader. She also leads a senior poetry group in Newton for anyone who's local and wants to get their creative things on, and helps Boston high school students write college essays. What lucky students those are. Thank you both for joining us. And to get us started, as I mentioned, we've asked Marcia and Heather to reacquaint us with these organizations, the communities they serve. So I'm going to pass it off to Heather to get us started by talking about RIA.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mika, and thank you to the TPC community for being receptive to hearing this information again, knowing that you've all kind of read through our materials, over and again, and then voted on us. So really, just grateful for sharing the space. So I'll run through my slides. I have a video that I'll also show, and really look forward to any questions you have or any curiosities as we kind of move along. So, Ready, Inspire, Act. So I'll start by this language. Maybe some of you have heard the concept of living in plain sight, and this is very true for the participants, the adults that RIA serves in our day-to-day. These are folks that are men, women, transgender people. We serve mostly female identified individuals, so females. And when they describe living in plain sight, it is the concept of which that nobody knows what I'm living with, but I am so embedded in the industry of exploitation. And so if you can advance to the next slide, I can sort of describe that most folks that come to us, I would say about 85% of the adults that we see describe that they were first commercially sexually exploited as a child and then become an adult. And some of the language that they have shared when asked around reuniting with their family or their community, and they will say to us that I just feel way too damaged to ever go back home, and I feel like I really don't belong anywhere anymore. And so with that, RIA works to help people feel more integrated with themselves, and then further in the broader community that starts with the RIA community. And so if you can click the video thing, it'll just kind of give you a framework. I think we just need the volume.
Is that okay?
My trafficker was my husband.
Thank you.
There was no way I could reach out to anybody for help.
We're scared. We're scared to run. We're scared to tell anybody what's going on.
It was an incredibly violent situation. I felt like there was no way I could get out.
Human traffickers can be just about anyone from any walk of life. A lot of the trafficking involves domestic servitude, hoteliers, restaurant owners, owners of massage parlors, agricultural farm owners.
It can be a trafficker who tells a woman, I want to be your boyfriend, I love you, and if you love me, you're going to go out and have sex for money. It can be kind of psychological like that, or it can be more overt, more physical. It can be hitting, abusing, keeping them away from any support systems.
Trafficking doesn't know any boundaries. The victim can be male, female, transgendered, anyone. And it happens all over America.
I still see this attitude of it's just immigrants or it's just people in other countries. It happens to US citizens so much more than people are aware.
The natural stakeholders in this issue are certainly law enforcement, legal advocates, social service providers. There's other players involved as well.
It is important to engage the community because victims often don't self-identify. They don't come forward to law enforcement.
Citizens in the community are the eyes and the ears.
It's medical workers, it's educators, it's personnel at homeless shelters.
We can't do this alone. No one has the capacity to provide every single thing that a victim or survivor of human trafficking needs.
There has to be a support system within the community, psychological counseling, shelter, and vocational education, so they can reintegrate, become a healthy individual.
There's an intentional effort to get everyone together so we know how to share resources, we know how to work together, and to make sure at the end of the day, a victim becomes a survivor.
Thank you. You can advance to the next slide. So in the United States, we have what is conceived to be about a $30 billion, it's a conservative number, but a $30 billion industry of buying people for sale for sex. And I'll note here that across the world, the US, so US citizens, Americans, are the largest consumer of purchased sex, of people, purchasing people for sex, anywhere in the world. And so although our current government right now is not releasing the updated human trafficking report, so every year the US Department of State releases a report on human trafficking that actually analogs by country. It's like a grading system by country of how the country is doing related to addressing both labor and sex trafficking across that country, and then all, some, I don't think it's like 400 some odd, 300 and something odd countries across the globe. And that report is not being released currently for a whole range of complicated reasons. I'm surprised I could even get the video to work, but I was grateful that the video still works. Other trainings are no longer available on the Office of Victims of Crime website. But anyways, but if you were to have read that report that was last published, which was 2023, in each country across the globe, overwhelmingly the largest consumer of buyers in that country are US citizens that then travel to all these different countries to purchase people. So that's where that information comes from. And so the map of Massachusetts shows you where RIA has served people to date. And so, so knowing that this is happening locally, and it is happening certainly in Massachusetts. You can advance the slide, thank you. What RIA provides, and yeah, please unpack all of that slide one after the other. But as the video shared, that that there isn't one agency that's going to help people that are coming out of prostitution or coming out of a sex traffic situation or commercial sexual exploitation experience. It is really a collaboration of organizations that come together to help people move from surviving to thriving. And so RIA is just a one conduit in that journey, in somebody's life journey. And so although we identify people that have been commercially sexually exploited, individuals that have exchanged sex for anything of value, it doesn't have to be just money. It could also be for drugs or for shelter or for diapers or for whatever is of value. Often it is for money, but doesn't have to be. And then what we provide are the middle circle, the sort of 3 tiers of support that RIA provides. First and foremost, it's survivor peer mentorship. Almost every intake that we do, and in a given year, we do probably about 100 to 125 intakes of adults, and almost every person asks for meeting with someone that understands some part of what they've been through. Is a survivor, a peer mentor that maybe doesn't have a mirror experience to what someone's been through, but they understand what it means to exchange sex for something of value, for survival. The next level of support that we provide and offer is just clinical therapy. It's classic, what probably most of us either have our own therapist or know somebody who's a therapist. And so clinical therapy is another piece of an integrated piece of the support that we provide. I will say that it's rare that someone comes through our intake line and only wants clinical therapy. It can happen, but that's not classically how people enter into getting therapy from someone on the RIA team, from a clinician on the RIA team. Often how people can get to that is that they come in and they want to meet with a mentor. And then through that mentorship relationship over time, where people are, our mentor and the participant are building trust, a situation may happen where, let's say a participant is continuing to wake up in the middle of the night and really can't get back to sleep at all, and may sometimes outreach to the mentor in the middle of the night, but often struggles through it. And then the next time the mentor sees that person, the participant be like, I couldn't get to work because I, slept through my alarm. And the mentor says, well, what happened? And be like, well, I keep waking up in the middle of the night. And then the mentor says, well, it's so important for you to get your sleep. And maybe that's happened to me before, but I wonder if maybe you would consider sharing some time with one of our clinicians and really think about what keeps coming up for you in the middle of the night. And then the participant may be like, oh, I've had so many therapists and, I just can't tolerate that. And say, well, why don't you just meet our therapist? Meet her once and just see what you think. And then that may be how the relationship will start. But therapy being, again, another critical piece of our service model. The last piece of our service model is something we call sustainability, which is straight up financial assistance. It's rare that someone leaves the sex trade with a bag of money, that they've hidden under their mattress or in the plant, or something like that, in the pot of the plant. It's just not how people leave. Typically, people leave with all of their personal belongings either on their back or in a garbage bag. And so financial assistance is really quite critical. And RIA doesn't have a limit on financial assistance. We really have an open door policy that if you think you need some support, ask us. And if we can meet your need, we will. And almost always we're able to meet the need, if not in full, maybe in half. And the other piece of what financial assistance can allow is we do have a rental assistance program. We have 6 individuals enrolled in the program right now, which allows for us to invest in participants and in their rent for 6 to 24 months while folks identify other goals, which could be getting a used car, so saving money for that, could be family reunification, could be starting classes or a recovery coach program. It could really be anything. It could be anger management, whatever it might be. But so that rental assistance can really be quite critical as someone moves their life forward. Our goal is wholeness and healing and the really reintegration of self. And that can be a long process, which can happen over months and years. So if you can keep advancing the slides. Ready, Inspire, Act, that is the model. This is a photograph of our team at the State House, visiting legislators, trying to convince them to care about our work truly. But I would say our community of survivors, the people we serve, are all healing from traumatic experiences, as I've described. 100% of the people we serve live at or below the federal poverty line. All of RIA's services are free and confidential. We do not accept health insurance money. And so, so we don't ask anything of our participants and are funded through donations, grants, obviously, as you know, and, other, foundation. And we do have some federal grants as well, God help us, and lots of individual donations. As well, I would say that most all of the people we serve hold not just one job, but often 2 or 3 jobs to afford being able to pay for the living expenses. And over half of our participants have children of their own, and all are working towards improving their lives. You can advance the next slide. In 2025 so far, so to date, we have provided over 4,000 what we call care encounters, which essentially are one-to-one services, mentor, clinician with participant, or both. And we have seen already 90 adults, which classically at this point in the year, we're probably more like 60 adults. So it's been very busy. I'm not going to lie. It's been very busy. Your support comes at such a critical time. Our intake line is busier than it's ever been in the history of the organization. We're doing upwards of 1 to 2 intakes a week, which is very unusual for the organization. So really grateful to be an option for people, a trusted option for people. Of the 90 participants, as I said, most everybody wants to meet with a mentor. And then about 17% of the folks that come through are also getting clinical services. So I can give you a framework on that. And to date, we've spent about $60,000 on what are these sustainability costs. So rent, basic needs, education costs. And we expect that number by the end of the year. Our goal is we're going to get to about $100,000 or $110,000 spent, for these discrete costs. You can advance this slide. After 6 months of being in relationship with a member of the RIA team, what we've seen pretty much across the board, but certainly in this year in 2025, about 94% reduction of commercial sex. So what that means is that folks are no longer exchanging sex for something of value. We're seeing after 6 months of being in relationship, 71% of a reduction of financial stress. What that measure is based on is at intake, we ask on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm out of my mind and it's so impossible to meet my financial needs around basic needs. So around food, clothing, shelter. 71% have a reduction of financial stress after about 6 months, and that's a reduction of 2 points. 89% of the folks that we've served so far in 2025 have seen an increase in housing safety over the course of 6 months or more. It's really quite critical. You can advance the slide. I think other things we would share is just that we started with seeing 20 participants in 2014. And as I said, we're on track to see 125 this year. And again, we've increased our flexible dollars around what we call the SHE fund, those sustainability dollars. We weren't able to actually spend any money in the first few years of RIA. And then we went to like $4,000 a year, then it went to $10,000 a year, and so on to this year, hoping that we'll reach about $110,000. Again, those costs are direct to the participants by way of a vendor. So we don't give participants cash. That's not how our model works, but we will pay a landlord or pay a phone bill or go to the supermarket or pay an electric bill, whatever that might look like. Can keep going. Our budget growth is as such. We're reaching more than $1 million this year and then hope to increase that by about 200,000 next year. Keep going. And what we ask of our community, and so certainly for TPC community, you have been able to donate to our work, but there's so many additional ways to get engaged by volunteering and really just educating yourself on how the buying and selling of people happens in plain sight. It is at all of our bearing witness, and the more we know, the more helpful we can be. So thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then these are just some photographs. I would say we went to the Stand With Survivor rally in DC. That's us on the bottom. That was a really beautiful event, and listened to the Epstein survivors, the ones that spoke out. That's a great way to get engaged as well. Our board is at a board retreat. Shanta and I are there, and our clinical director and our director of peer mentorship are just posing for a picture as if they were in therapy together. Hope you get to know them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Marcia, can you share with us some more about Young Men with the Plan and your wonderful organization?
Thanks so much. Thank you, Heather. That was really beautifully done. I loved hearing from your women and hearing about the She Fund. That's great. We have something called Level the Field Fund, which also is just a way to help people who need direct support. So Young Men with a Plan is all about closing gaps. There've been a lot of reports in Boston about wealth gaps, life expectancy gaps from one zip code to another. And we often you will see young men of color who are on the furthest side of those gaps. And we've learned that by starting in 7th grade and with sustained mentoring of about 3 hours a week plus, that we can close those gaps. Next slide, please. Our why is, again, the widening gaps. And what we realized was that a lot of people are looking for the silver bullet or the thing that just swoops in and, just with SAT prep, you guys are going to be on your way. And we just realized that persistent gaps required more sustained and holistic, non-transactional approaches, whereas far from transactional, I would say, possible in terms of the sustained relationship that our staff maintains with young men over 6+ years, and just the fact that it's holistic. So that's our mission. We deliver holistic mentoring that helps young Black and Latino men in the middle make gains and create plans to access sustainable futures. And the men in the middle are the ones that get very few resources. They're not the top achievers who are in the Harvard Crimson programs, and they're not the most acutely at risk, who get services at school and otherwise. These young men can go, under the radar, and but with the sustained support of our amazing staff, they really can blossom. Next slide. Yeah, so here are our outcomes. We're serving this year about 375 youth, and the 225 is grade 7 through 12, and about 150 alumni. Our young men show up and they keep coming back. We retain over 90%. About 79% make GPA gains. They all graduate high school. These are all important to us because we're holistic. We see on the relationship side, 95% report better relationships with friends, and then a little less with parents and a little less with teachers, but still progress. And we measure social emotional growth, and we see, great improvement in listening, purpose, decision-making, and progress toward their goals. The goals are in their success plans, which they create and update twice a year. And our seniors, we see 80% of them choosing college 2- and 4-year, and others choosing military, trades, Europe, and some full-time employment. And a very recent question is, we've added wellness, and a very resounding percent say that Young Man with a Plan cares about my physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're Boston born. And so in 2014, a funder called together 8 school leaders and said, we want to fund a collaborative project. They named Young Men in the Middle as their greatest concern. And we launched in 2015 with 30 students. And right now, as I said, we're serving 375 students and alums. We have about a $1.7 million budget, and we have plans to purchase our building at the end of this year to establish a permanent home. Sorry, I just want to say that is our executive director, Jakari, and he is teaching Jalen how to tie a tie. And Jalen he went to Bunker Hill for 2 years, and then he just got a certificate in biotech lab technician. And so he's on his path to a very, very good career in life sciences. Next, please. So it's a lot of words here, but we just want to say that everything we do is research informed. I think what's most important is further down. Jakari, during his time at Young Man with a Plan, received his doctorate, and he interviewed a lot of successful Black male college graduates who happen as a group to have the lowest persistence rate. And he wanted to understand, like, why? How did you persist? And there's a great, I can link to a great summary of the research. But the one thing he found was that young Black men really crave explicit guidance, respectfully delivered by trusted people. So, like tell me what to do. Tell me how to do this. The young men do not feel insulted if it's someone that they trust and who they know respects them. So those are our strategies for that we put together to make Young Men with a Plan. Caring adults, strengthening a variety of skills, individual success planning, quality partnerships, and creating a protective community where young men can feel safe. Next, please. Yeah, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we've all heard about it, but we really think it fits here. Young men come to us, they have all kinds of needs, and as they get to know us, they open up and tell us that, there are problems at home and they're hungry, and housing is an issue. So we deal on the physiological level, and then safety, a safe place to belong. Not all of we have nearly 70% of our families are immigrant families. And then they're looking for a place to belong. A lot of young men who aren't playing sports are looking for a group to belong to. And that is part of what Young Men with a Plan provides. And then esteem, like through just trying, the success planning, setting small goals, achieving small goals, being pushed to take the AP course or to go on a summer enrichment program. You see the esteem building as we move towards self-actualization. And as I was saying, I think a lot of programs do not, they serve well by coming in sort of at the top with a SAT prep or, something that is very specific, but there's a certain trust and openness that we found makes our young men more receptive to that kind of experience. Next, please. So this is just a picture of some of the programming that we do. Young men come to our space weekly. They have dinner together. They check in. They have a topic around college or career. But then we also have some other programming that we offer. An essay writing class, I do that. Songwriting, we did that through Beats, Rhymes, and Life, which was excellent. We do worksite visits. This one is to a life science company called Vistera. Just last week, through a wonderful TPC connection, our young men visited Berkshire Hathaway Insurance and loved it. We do community service about 4 times a year, and we have a group of young men that are trained to be near-peer mentors, and they learn leadership skills, and then they help out at groups, and they do tutoring, and they lead community service. Next slide. Very recently, we launched something called Young Men Institute for Convening and Learning, and we are often asked, how can more people learn from you, or can you serve more schools? And what we did first was just determine that our staff, led by Dr. Jay Simpson, just had so much knowledge about young men to share. So we just launched our first fireside chat. That's Dr. Kevin Simon. He's Boston's Chief Behavioral Health Officer. And he and Jakari had a dialogue about young men's mental health. And it was extremely compelling and well attended. And Dr. Simon praised Young Men with a Plan as being what he called a brave, safe space. And another thing he said was sometimes just being present is enough, and Young Men with Plan is present. And I think that's the essence of sustained support over time in a safe space, where people feel they belong and can trust the adults. Next is another exciting thing we're trying to do. We've recognized that young men, not all of them are feeling challenged at school, and they're kind of rewired brains from being on their phones and social media and AI. So we got a 2-year grant from Boston Children's Hospital. And this is a model for some other projects we're doing. It's small youth-led groups on a topic where they learn research methods, review the literature, create peer surveys and focus groups, and then they analyze the data, take a position, and they will be advocating at the State House next year. But just a way to bridge some of the need we see going on in terms of young men being disengaged from school, but craving rigor, and we call it the love language of accountability. So that is just an example of what we've been doing. We did a project like this on climate resiliency as well, and we plan to do more coming up this year. Next. Okay, here's our alums. We were really, really pleased to have our first alumni event last fall, and they showed up, and it was just it was heartwarming. A lot of them had never been in this new space that we have, but we wanted to represent all of their, where they are going to or have been to college, and then below, just the range of college majors and careers that they're pursuing. And I think this is so important. And as the person who's writing the grants, and I tried very hard. I think the media has done a huge disservice to young men of color. And I think they're often viewed as a monolith, and also, very narrow interests and a threat. And so we get this wonderful gathering of young men who have graduated our program, and you just see the range of careers that they have, just the beauty of diversity within this group. And we have our nerds, and we have our artists, and we have our engineers, and we have our entrepreneurs, and just want kind of the world to see, I don't know, I just feel so honored to work at Young Men with a Plan and to get to know so many great people. We have an excellent staff as well. Together, I think there's over 50 years of educational experience. So our staff are exemplary and retained because they're treated with respect, and we're concerned about their wellness and life balance as well. So just really love this slide. And next, please. Yeah, so this a year ago, so a little history, COVID, up to COVID time, we're in the schools. We were kind of nomads. We had this room, and then they moved us to this room, and in different schools in Hyde Park. And in 2021, I just went looking for a place where we could have space, and we got the upstairs, a half of the upstairs of this building. And then a few years later, we were able to rent the downstairs. So we rent a total of about 4,000 square feet of the building. And our landlord, the owner, said it's going on the market. I just want to tell you, there'll be people coming through, and so we're like, we need to buy this. Our board was very activated on it, and it looks like we're going to close on January 6th, buying our own building, which also has 2,000 square foot, beautiful room upstairs that we will gain. Thank you. It's, yeah, it's been a really hard year with raising operating and capital funds, and really grateful to TPC for keeping us in your portfolio. And that's my news. The next is just a thank you.
That's
I love
amazing.
this quote. If I could just say I learned I was valued somewhere, I probably have said it before, but on their evaluation at the year end, there is an open-ended question. I learned, so you go through and you're like, I learned about this career. I learned that I could do math better. And then this one just stopped me in my tracks. I learned that I was valued somewhere. And to me, that is the essence of Young Men with a Plan. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marcia. And congratulations. We'll be hopefully toasting to celebrate you all as you get the keys officially in January. Wonderful. As I'm reflecting on what both of you have shared, I'm thinking about the centering on the sense of belonging and for both of your communities that you're serving, and how mentorship and the community showing up for itself creates that feeling of belonging and being valued, and really appreciate hearing those stories. A few questions from me as we give folks in the room a chance to drop their questions in chat or raise their hands for a question. The first is, each of you said something that ties to the concept of collaboration, or collaboration with other organizations or ways that you work within the community. So Heather, you said no one has the capacity to provide everything that a victim needs. Marcia, you talked about the persistent gaps requiring this very holistic support. So can you tell us a little bit about how you work within or with other organizations to help meet those needs as you grow? Marcia, would you mind starting for us?
Sure. Yes. Holistic list of partners. First, the schools that we work with. We have 8 schools in Boston, 3 are charters, 5 are BPS. We also have connections with colleges, UMass Boston, Northeastern, Bunker Hill, and Roxbury. On the career side, we work with the Boston Private Industry Council. They actually fund our near-peer mentors. And we also take those worksite visits I spoke of, probably 3 to 4 a year. And then on wellness and safety, Boston Children's Hospital is a great partner. And the Boston Police Department has an officer who comes to our meetings pretty much. It started in 2017. I was like, I really like it here. And he's just a very friendly presence, and we really, really love him. Just have to call out TPC as well, because you've partnered with us on some great things. I wanted to mention our Networking 101 event that we had last year, where we made you guinea pigs. Our young men wrote and practiced their elevator pitches and then shared them with women and a few men associated with TPC. And that was like an outstanding event, and we intend to do it again. So that's our list of partners.
Thank you, Marcia. Heather, what are your partner and collaboration spaces?
Yeah, thank you. Our partners, I think how we view partners is more just with how we share resources on behalf of the people that we serve. I think that's kind of what that looks like. I think what's hard with our community is that it's such a confidential service. So people don't want anyone to know that they're receiving services. And in some cases, people come when they only use an alias until they really know that they can trust us. Anyway, so it's really interesting. And they often won't tell their family members that they're receiving services because they have not revealed that they have been in prostitution or have gone through some of what they've been through, or for reasons related to, security, where they can't reveal that they've told anyone because they're still living with a family member or someone who that has is part of their story related to exploitation. So our partners look like folks that provide furniture. We have a great relationship with Gifts of Hope that I don't know if anyone's ever needed to use their services, but they are a group of volunteer people. They're older people, and they have a warehouse that is filled with anything you could imagine for a home. And anybody that's moving out of a homelessness or any sort of complicated living situation can literally walk in and shop, and they can bring a truck and fill the truck floor to ceiling, and literally furnish their entire home. So it's really quite beautiful. And they also, can get you clothing. I mean, there's also other things they can get. So they're an important collaborator with us. Another collaborator is Dignity Matters. Maybe some of you know them because I think they're also TPC grantee. They are a great collaborator and provide both feminine care products, but then also bras and underwear and boxer shorts, because some folks that we serve do not want underwear, they want boxer shorts, or they want these fitted t-shirts, whatever it might be, but they're willing to work with us and help us get what we need. And I think that's typically every 2 to 3 months, depending upon what the flow of services are, the flow of intakes. Other groups are, we host a weekly group in a space, a shared space that Smock runs in Framingham. It's called Anchored in Recovery. They're a really beautiful partner. There are other recovery homes that are places where folks may rent a room. And we're really deeply involved. We're just in relationship with, so as people need spaces to live in and they're not able to afford an independent apartment of some sort, these particular businesses, rooming houses, can be really useful for the folks that we serve. Other kinds of partners, I would say, are anyone that is willing to be in a relationship with us around helping to connect our participants to other services. So, for example, we fund a couple of our participants' education, and so that means that we're, a regular vendor, a regular payer to a vendor. And so through those relationships, we just continue to make sure folks know what the work is that we're doing and who we serve. I don't know. Those are some examples. I think classic things are the police department, I would say, as well, making sure they know where to send someone if they meet someone who has, whether they've been working a massage or are part of a sting or come through the emergency room, and often a police can be involved in that. Emergency room staff, it's really making sure just everyone and anyone knows about our services. And that's been really useful. So I think that answers one question too in the chat, was like, why do we have so many intakes? I think partly it's our outreach and operations manager, Yvette, literally is on fire everywhere. And so I think that's part of why we've done more intakes. I also think that this is becoming an increasing problem, let's say, across communities, but there are fewer and fewer places where people can actually get reliable, trustworthy services. So we just happen to be one where no matter how you represent yourself, we don't discriminate against you. And we also make it optional. If you don't want to share your demographics, you don't need to share them with us. And that's a very intentional decision that has been useful to the population we serve.
So my library, children's area, has some RIA flyers in the family bathrooms. And I think
Exactly.
the intentionality and value, the relevance of that in all spaces, because I think there are some who would say, what is that doing in a children's area bathroom? But clearly it belongs there and builds awareness all over.
Yeah, and the average age of first being commercially sexually exploited is 14. So it's rare that you drop in at 25.
Yeah. Well, and half of your folks who seek help are parents, our mothers.
Oh,
right?
yeah, well,
So, too, so
absolutely, right,
who
absolutely.
goes to the children's room in the library? Lots of parents, not just lots of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just thinking about how both of you brought to light so many reach in things. So, Marcia, you talked about you have a police officer who comes into your space in community. You bring your community members to these environments to access this. I'm going to ask one more question before we get to some others in the chat, which is just If you can answer this briefly, because I'm sure you could talk about at length, but right now, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing as you're thinking about moving your organization forward? Heather, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it's political will. I got to be honest with you. There is a level of indifference that is growing across the country. And I just think of so many conversations that we have with individuals, around what our work is. And I feel like if I went back a couple of years, I think there's always a lack of awareness, like no doubt about it. People are like, oh God, I didn't know that that happens locally. This actually happens in my town, like this kind of thing. But I almost feel like people know so much more nowadays. But I don't want to say they don't care, but they're pretty like, yeah, that isn't my thing, that kind of thing. And so, that of course for an organization um, you know, that's built on these relationships with, individuals, in our day to day, and then obviously across community, I don't know, you have to really, you got to dig deep to not take it personal on behalf of the people we serve. So the way we sort of fight that, I should say, and not, I don't want to say look past it, but fight that is to try to just stay in relationship, even with the people that, in the fundraising community, they're like, don't waste your time on the people that don't really care or don't really, but for us, it's like, particularly for those, we're survivors and allies. I'm an ally on the team, but for those with lived experience on our team, they're like, yeah, we'll come back to you, you're not going to get away with that kind of thing, because like, I really believe, really believe in our shared humanity. And I think that's true of everyone that works with RIA, that we have to be able to see ourselves in each other, to be able to move forward. And so I would say indifference really right now. And is that connected to resources? Of course it is, so, but yeah, I would say. Thank you for asking.
Marcia, what about you?
Yeah, so I would say there's a few things. The need is growing. We have a lot of young men who desire a place to belong. Funding still, we just thought in 2020, 2021 that, people were just really excited about serving young men of color, but a lot of it was linked to Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and COVID. And then we found that a lot of funders are not centering the work that we do. So it is differentiating ourselves, and just communicating the value of what we do and what our young men need. It's not seen as quite the most acute need, I guess, because they're in the middle. So just raising the attention about that. I would also say that there is a general distrust of college among young people that's growing. Like, is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it, and it costs so much. And so it's convincing young men to think about it. And of course, there are many other routes that they can take towards sustainable futures. But we do see young men who we think would really, have a great future, kind of like sort of iffy about college and not understanding quite what the value is. So, so the need, the funding, and then just the need to really spend time with young people to get them excited about post-secondary education and why it's valuable, why it might be for them.
Marcia, let me go to the chat, and also if anyone wants to unmute, you can raise your hand on Zoom or just with your hand here. Question from Susan: do either of you involve family members, serve or engage with the family members of your community members in any way? Some nods. Marcia?
I can go, yeah, definitely. It's a huge part of it. We see ourselves as sort of the third space. There's school, there's home, and there's Young Men with a Plan. And so we have very intensive family engagement, multilingual, both in the registration process, and then we have 2 family engagement nights, and they also come to Men of Color Career Night and some of our other events in the space. It's really important. There's always a staff talking to someone to a parent about issues, and sort of making a plan together. So it's a really important part of our process.
Yeah, I think for RIA, it's how would I say this? We don't provide family therapy. Well, let's just go with the therapeutic side. We have tried to do that on a couple of occasions, and it just hasn't worked out. It can get pretty it can be really complicated. I would say that just the other day, so this it isn't directly involving family, but in a therapeutic alliance, one of our participants shared something that her mom wrote to her that that spoke in such vulnerable terms, and this had not happened for this participant before, but described to the participant, the mom did, of how her traumatic experiences undealt with became essentially were layered up on her daughter, and that she was really sorry for that. And and it was the way it was written, it was just so beautiful, and really gave the participant the opportunity for forgiveness inside herself, because she had felt so responsible for these feelings of like fighting a war. But what's the war? Because it wasn't that she had been abused or hurt or anything like that. Yet she found herself having so much emotional internal turmoil, and when her mom wrote this to her, she really had a glimpse a glimpse of the parts that that really weren't about her at all. Anyways, it was a really beautiful experience. And we don't always get the benefit of that. There's not always a guardian or a parent that will allow themselves to come full circle. But when that does happen, it can be really life-changing.
Beautiful. Sarah, I know you dropped a question in chat. Would you like to?
No, sure. I also recognize we're at time. So I know people who might be on a tight timeline. So I was going to offer you, Mika, to wrap up.
Sure.
I could provide some closing remarks, and then if folks have like 2 or 3 minutes, we can just say hi casually off the recording. So go ahead.
Just as a wrap-up note, Marcia and Heather, can you remind us if there are any ways for folks on the call to support you, get involved with your organizations as our way of saying thank you and wrapping up the evening? Heather? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your support just by, having this opportunity to talk to one another, or the grant that you've provided us, my goodness, it's like just so incredible. I think the obvious is if anybody wanted to become a monthly donor, I think that'd be really helpful for RIA personally. I feel like if somebody was interested in getting more engaged and learning more, reach out and, talk to us, and we can make sure to get you the information you need. I think there's also plenty of like opportunities to improve the parts of RIA that, we don't have resources for, like marketing and communication, awareness building, maybe helping us create a strategy to build our mailing list. I don't know. There's so many different ways for volunteer pieces. We do assessments every 6 months. And if you're into qualitative coding, we get a lot of qualitative data. I know that's not everybody's thing, but it's a great way to get to know the work. I don't know. There's other things too. You host a book club. We can give you so many different books to read and help spread the word about people living in plain sight here in Massachusetts. That's a real great way, because it seems like everyone's part of a book club. I am not. I wish I was, but that could be a way to sort of help us help others. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for the question.
It's great.
Marcia?
We had our first 2 book clubs just in the last 6 months, one in the summer, and it was great. It is a very good way to engage. I would say go to our website. You can sign up to be a volunteer, or you can reach out to me. We have community service events where we support in elementary school called Shaw Elementary. We pack up winter clothing for them around the holidays. We also do cleanups. We get a list. We ask people to sign up to be on the other end of a phone call or a Zoom call from a young man who will do an informational interview with you to ask a series of questions about your life and career. And I've been on the other end, and it's a really wonderful experience for both. And we're hoping to have Networking 101 again this year, and would love to have TPC show up for that. We're having our 10-year celebration event party on November 12th. That information is also on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. Really appreciate both of you sharing your stories. And with that, I will pass it to Sarah to wrap us up with a couple TPC membership announcements.
Yes, I am sorry we're running 2 minutes over. Thank you, Mika. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Heather. This was a really nice event and a nice way to start these dialogues for these grant season. I've taken a ton of notes, and I'm sure I'm going to be processing them for the weeks ahead. Really quickly, there are some upcoming events to be aware of. Nicole, if you have the slide easily, or they're all posted on our website. Please take a look. Please join what you can. It is a great way to continue participating with TPC. Beyond that, we love to hear from you. We love to hear from our speakers. We love to hear from TPC members. Let us know what you liked about this evening's program. Let us know what you think could be better, or what you hope to be a focus for a future conversation. With that, I want to say good night. The recording can stop. Whoever wants to, say hello real quick yourselves to Heather and Marcia, you're free to stay on for a little bit and have a few words.